Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Leilu Nishmas Chaim Moshe Scaff. My name is Moshe Scaff. I'm an Avrech in Brooklyn, New York. I just started listening to this year from the beginning of Sotah till now. I'm planning to continue through this man as Hashem. I went through several Daf Yomi Magid Shir. Never saw someone that makes it so fun. It really makes the viewer thirsty for the next year. Viewer thirsty for the next year. I love the pictures chart. It's very clear. I can actually watch the shir, not just listen, maybe space out, and then need to go to rewind. This mitzvahs. Thanks again, Moshe Scaff. Oh, Rabbi Sai, today is the 14th day in the Omer in Eretz Yisrael. In America and in other places, it's the 13th. How are you, Leilui? I went to Israel for Pesach, to Kibbutz Av. I got this present from my wife for my birthday. And basically he's saying he just realized how much she appreciates his limud torah. He almost started crying for being so emotional in that moment. Every time I took my phone to learn the daf, I was looking for something to hold my phone. She was able to screen, probably realized. She gave me a stender for my Gemara and for my phone. A double stender, 2 stender. Thank you so much for giving me the love to learn every day and find out after such a long time that my wife and kids love to see me learning every night. Shloimi Fisher, here's the Stenderim. One for the Gemara, one for the phone. Rabbi said, yesterday I read an email, and the individual, I didn't have time to go back to the email, but the individual that wrote the email said that he came to the shir b'schos David Block, and I said, David Block, I don't know if you remember. It's hard to write this. Last night, Dr. David Block was nifter. Can't mention any people's names anymore. He was with the shir since Brachos and was the one that recruited myself and Baruch Furman to the shir. He struggled with a rare cancer. He's only 60 years old. He and I went to see him in RBS for Dorim. He's my neighbor and close friend. Always had a smile on his face. He loved the shir. And I know he was listening right up to the very end. Here's a picture of him at the Ksubas Siyum in Cafe Rimon. He will deeply be missed. Baruch MS, Gavi, Ramat Bet Shemesh. Here is a picture of him. I'll show the idol if you want to see. Anybody recognize him? David Black. Great person. His neshama should have an aliyah. The Koilo, sponsored by Anonymous from Lakewood. The Masechta, sponsored by myself, Eli Stefansky, Mr. Eli Stefansky. He stuck it in here. Okay, very cool. Very cute. Mr. Eli Stefansky, Zechariah Nishmas, Menachem Toporowitz. Yes, by the way, I'm not just making it up. In my daughter's, who's the last one that got married? My son. So in my son's invitation, I wrote Mr. Eli Stefansky. Leilu Nishmas, Menachem Toporowitz. מענדל על השלום בן יבלח חיים יהושע דויב. פרס החודש, the MDY Family לעילו נשמס חיים אורן זכריה לברכה בן יבלח חיים אליהו. פרס החודש לעילו נשמס חיים בס יוסף. פרס החודש, the Entire MDY Family לעילו נשמס אברהם מנשה בן מנשה אהרן. Another young person, we have to chaparein. Pars HaChodesh, Leilu Nishmas Zechariah ben Moshe. Pars HaYom, the Weinberg family in memory of our father's first Yartzheit, Leilu Nishmas Eliyahu ben Avraham. By Baruch Furman, Leilu Nishmas David Black, the man who reintroduced me to torah. שלמה ben Eliyahu. Wow, if I'm not mistaken, Baruch Furman just did a refuah Shlema, so it's probably the same person that he did the refuah Shlema for. Okay, I wasn't aware. By Slava Mindel, the Parnas Hayoim, Slava Mindel Bas Faivel, and the art for complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Leah. Okay, so I will turn this for some of the oilam. As long as I can see it a little bit, I guess we're good. We're holding Daf Beis, another Geshmaki kind of Agata kind of Gemara. Daf Beis, Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the top. Itmar. We learned yesterday, Kara B'Shana, a person who learns Chumash and learns Mishnayos, V'lishimish Tamid Chachamim, but never had any kind of shimush from a Talmud Chacham, never learned the real meaning behind the Mishnayos. As Rashi explained yesterday, we'll see today again. Just learning, we're very familiar. You learn a Mishnah, and we really have no clue. We think it says one thing, it really means something else. We don't know who to paskin like. We don't know the reasons behind it. So a person just reads Mishnayos. Rabbi Elazar Omer Hareze Am Haaretz. He is an Amaritz. I like to call him Amaritz for all the new guys. There's a whole story behind it. We're not going to get into it because the guy's from Chicago and maybe he's listening, maybe he's in the room. No, I'm just kidding. He's not in the room. He doesn't listen. But it's called Amharitz in this year because that's what he said. He called me an Amaritz. I said he's such an Amaritz. He doesn't even know how to say Amaritz. Amaritz. Says the Gemara, Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani Omar Harei Bur. So when we're discussing an Amaretz, Rashi says there's a different type of Amaratzim. In our Gemara, Rashi says an Amaretz is somebody who's not makbid on Maisrus and Taharis. So we got to be careful all the time. If he touches something, maybe he made a tummy because he doesn't know how to be careful. The other types of Amaratzim, but in our Sugya, the Amaretz, the typical one of Shas, he's not makbid in Trumas and Maisrus. And he's not makbid, I shouldn't say Trum, he's not makbid in Maisrus. And he's not careful with Taharis. Shmuel Bar Nachmani says it's one step worse. He's a bur. Harei a bur. You can merit. Well, how do you say it? No, that's not Amaretz. Okay, a bur. Worse. He has bad intent too. Amaretz he doesn't know so much, but he doesn't know much, and he's not such a great guy. Yani Omer Harei Kusi. Kusi, we know. Chloiks and Shas, if they Geri Emes, Geri Arayis, they become Gerim sincerely, or they became Gerim because of fear of the lions. Regardless, they're not so makbin in things, and they don't care about the Melech Chachamim. So somebody who just learns Torah, just learns the Chumash, just learns the Mishnah, and doesn't go deeper to learn from a Rebbe what it says here, he's also considered a Kusi. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov Omer Harei Mogosh. Mogosh is a sorcerer, a magician, a guy that says spells and certain things happen. It's very interesting that I just learned this today because the first thing that came to mind is what's your typical spell? What does a magician say? Abracadabra. What does it mean? But what does it mean?
It's another face.
Oh, very good. That's what Reb Google's told me. That abracadabra comes from Hebrew, from Lashon Kodesh. Abra, cadabra. Abra is Evra. I'll create. Kedabra with my words. Dibur. Evra Kedabra. I guess that was an old language, an old thing that they used to say. Fine. I'll create with my words. So he's a Bagosh. In other words, he's a faker. He'll say words. He says Mishnayos, but he has no clue what he's saying. Like a Bagosh, he says he has certain spells. He says he has no idea what they mean and what they do. Says the Gemara, I like this pshat the most. He says the Amin, because this is actually saying, the Magoisha, the sorcerer, the magician, he says stuff, spells, and he has no clue what he's saying. This guy also, he says, look, there's a Mishnah in Sotah that says this and this and that. You should treat the Sotah this way. At the end of the day, if you didn't learn the Gemara, you don't know that. That doesn't mean this. It means something else. We have things in our Mishnayos and our Masechta that literally meant the opposite almost. Like the typical reading would be this way, it means something else. Stop. There was a Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Samach Zayin. Looked it up today. The Gemara says over there that there was a sorcerer, a woman, who she wanted to fool this guy, and she gave him a cup to drink, and he knew that something was up with the cup, so he spilled a little bit on the floor and turned into like some sort of insect, and akravim, how do you say kravim in English? Scorpions. Thank you. And the Kitzer, so he noticed right away. So he said, you know what? You drink this. He gave her something else, and she turned into a donkey. And then he started riding her in the street. And one of the friends realized that it's her friend in the donkey. So she went and she undid it. And it turned out he was riding a woman in the middle of the street. Oh, ganze Maisa. Kids in those days, they were very busy with this sorcery. Says the Gemara, that's what this guy is. He's no better than a sorcerer that says spells. Says the Gemara, what's considered Amaretz? That for halacha we have to know. This guy, this Amaretz, you guys see it. But what's an Amaretz that if he touches something, now we have to be concerned that it's tummy? Thank you. Mark Ashkenazi is manipulating the buttons. It only goes one way, Mark. It goes from the Amaretz. I have to go back to the screen because I forget. But you to pull it up, okay, fine. We'll let it slide. Says Rameir, a guy is such an Amaretz that he doesn't even know how to read Kriya Shema. The Gemara says bebrachas, but it means he doesn't know how to read. And not so long ago, 200-300 years ago, there were a lot of Yidden that didn't know how to read. They simply didn't go to Cheder in Europe. In the time of the Baal Shem Tov, that's a lot of the reason why Hasidus started. People were so Amaretz, they didn't know how to read. So a guy that can't read, not that he knows how to read and he doesn't say Kriya Shema. That's a whole different level. Talking about a guy that doesn't know how to read. He can't read Hebrew. That's an Amaretz, somebody that probably doesn't know other halachas, doesn't know how to keep Tumantar. Somebody doesn't put on tefillin. Because it says in Kriya Shema, you have to wear tefillin. And we know you can't, if you read Kriya Shema without tefillin, so you made it a sheker, you don't put on tefillin. As a side note, I like doing this. Side notes. There are people today, I notice almost in every shul, there are people that don't wear tefillin. Especially tefillin shul rosh. What does that mean? Yeah, in order to be yoytze the mitzvah of tefillin, you have to wear it lahalacha. If you wear your tefillin halfway down your forehead, you're not yoytze. If you wear it an inch on your forehead, also not yoytze. A lot of people don't realize it's where the hair ends. I don't know why they insist on wearing it all. Maybe their knot is too wide, whatever. They should go be makbid on it because otherwise you're not wearing tefillin. We might have to call you an Amaretz. Okay, so this is a guy that wears Daled Kanfas. He just doesn't have tzitzis. Again, so if you notice here, these are all things. Everything we mentioned is in Kriya Shema, the first parasha of Kriya Shema. Tzitzis, well, not really, but it's in Kriya Shema. But Megadol Limoy Torah is in the first parasha of Kriya Shema. We showed the pasuk yesterday. To teach your son's Torah. That's our sugya. That's how it fit in here. Others say that even if you know how to read, so you read Torah, you read Mishnayos, but you didn't serve at Am Chacham, Zeu Amaretz. Karav Elishana, Harei Zabur. If you read Psukim, you learn Torah, and you don't do Mishnayos, you're Bur. Loi Karav Elishana, you didn't learn either, not Chumash, not Mishnah. Because Vaymer, the Zerati is Beis Yisrael. I planned Beis Yisrael. There's Beis Yehuda, Zera Adam. Tamid Chachamim are called the Zera Adam. The Zera Behema, the offspring of an animal, literally a person who doesn't learn, who's a Bur B'Hamaretz, he's considered a Behema. A Behema also doesn't know anything, doesn't know much. The difference between a human being and a Behema is somebody who learns, who knows. Yiraz Hashem b'ni v'melech. Shlomo HaMelech tells his son, you should fear Hashem, and you should fear kings. V'mshoinim al tesarev. And those who are considered shoinim, different, don't mix. Or Yitzchak, what does it mean shoinim? Who are the shoinim? Eilu sheshoinim halachos. These are people that we're discussing right now. They say over halacha as if they know the halacha. You come to ask him a shayla. That's the halacha. But they never mishamish tamid chachamim. Pshita. What else could the pasuk mean? Ma the same as shoinim bechet ugdravuna. Shoinim might mean to repeat. Not that they're different, that they say over, but they repeat the same thing over. Shayne bechet ukid Rav Huna. Rav Huna, the famous Rav Huna, I think it's 4 or 5 times in Shas, brought on the side here. Kivin sha'avar adam aveir v'shana b'hutrulay. A person sins, he knows that it's asur, but once he repeats it over and over, it becomes mutter to him, kamash v'lad. So in all the other places in Shas besides here, the Gemara asks the famous question, hutrulay, it becomes mutter to him? So he says, no, nasa like after. He treats it. He forgets that it's asur. You do an aveira over and over and over. You talk lashon hara every day. So you think the lashon hara is, in your mind, it's mutter. You know it's asur, but becomes like it's mutter. Tana. Hatanoim mevali oilam. Those who say over the halacha mevali olam, they destroy the world. Mevali olam, so what? Those who learn are the destroyers of the world. Amar Avina shemarin halacha metoich mishnasam. All they know is Mishnah. Tanaim, they say Mishnayos, but they say halacha from a Mishnah. They say, look, it says mefurish in the Mishnah in Sotah that this, that, I don't know what. Whatever you want to say. Any halacha, if you don't look it up, you say, oh, it's also to teach your daughter torah. It's supposed to teach your daughter torah. Whatever it is, you're going to paskin from a Mishnah, you're destroying the world because there's a lot more to it and you have to know more of it. So obviously, says the Gemara, learning Mishnayos is a beautiful thing. But you can take a beautiful thing and ruin it. You could do wrong with the beautiful thing. You have to know what to do with it. If you're a child and you're learning Mishnayos, or you're an adult and learning Mishnayos, you want to finish the beautiful program Mishnah Yomi and finish Mishnayos when Shas finished, great. But if you're going to take the Mishnah and say, I'm a big Talmid Chacham, and somebody comes to ask you a question, you say, yeah, it's Mefurish Mishnah and Brachas, that this is the bracha you make on this and this food. So Mevalo, you're destroying the world. There was a Rav that came up to Shemayim, and he sees the bus driver sitting in a better place than he is in Gan Eden. He says, what's going on here? What? So he said, oh, you, Rabbi, when you gave a speech, everybody fell asleep. But this guy, when he drove his bus, everybody said to him. So sometimes you have something good and you don't use it properly. Sometimes you have, whatever it is, you have to know how to use your thing. But to use a Mishnah and paskin halacha, that's not a good thing. We learned something similar. People that learn Mishnayos are the creators of the world. They're situating the world. It's great. Mishnayos is halachas. It's beautiful. You're supposed to learn Mishnayos every day. So I think let's see Rashi inside, like smack in the middle of the Amud. They give over false halachas. The kivin the inyoidim tamei Mishnah. When you don't know the reason behind the Mishnah, so sometimes you think that it's similar and it's not similar because you have to know the reason behind the Mishnah. And when you know the reason, then you can say, is this thing similar to something else? And that's what halacha is. Not everything is in the Mishnah Berurah and Shulchan Aruch that tells you exactly this and this and this. Today, in our days, we have a cell phone. Could you do this and this on a cell phone or that? So could you compare it to this halacha and Masechtas Shabbos? Well, if you don't know the reason, then you can't give the halacha. Voy. There's Mishnayos, Harbel. There's many Mishnayos that are written on Hamani, Pliny. They say this Mishnah goes according to so and so. But he's only an individual opinion. And we don't pass him like him. So how can you pass him like this Mishnah? We don't even pass him like the Mishnah. There's many reasons why they don't know if Rebbe Kiva is against this one. They don't know, do we pass him like Rebbe Kiva? They're passing like this. The Mishnah is just das yachid. It's not that. So you have to know behind the scenes. There's a fascinating marsha I'll just read it for you. It's in the back over here. It says, in our generation, those who open up a Shulchan Aruch and they paskin based on what the Shulchan Aruch says. In other words, if it says straight out, okay, but they try to compare one halach from the Shulchan Aruch to something else. They don't know the reason behind them. They don't know. They should really learn the Gemara, and learning Gemara is like serving a Talmud Chacham. But toes nafal by Rasam, and therefore they'll have a mistake. These are the people that are destroying the world. You should yell at them. So, when I get to us, the Mishnah Berurah in the Akdama, in his Akdama to the Mishnah Berurah, he says something similar, and he says over there that that's why I wrote the Mishnah Berurah, because it's very hard to make a halacha from the Shulchan Aruch. So he devised a way to paskin halachas that are neged to us in our day. So we paskin from the Mishnah Berurah. A lot of people, and Israel, especially over here in America, I know there's a little bit of maybe sometimes resistance, whatever. But okay, in Israel, where I'm from now, that everybody goes to Mishnah Berurah is the Pasuk Achron, and he says you shouldn't paskin based on the Shulchan Aruch. There's the Torah, this, and there's different cheetahs of Mela. I broke it down to a way that we could paskin. Okay, I just thought it's interesting. Some person can say, okay, that's pasking from Mishnayos. But I'm not passing from a Mishnah. I'm passing straight out of the Shulchan Aruch. Says the Marsha, straight out of the Shulchan Aruch. You're also not marit, because you have to know behind the scenes what's going on in the Shulchan Aruch. All right. Isha Prusha. It says in the Mishnah that a woman who is a Prusha, what's a good word for a Prusha? She abstains from the Hana of this world. She's terrible person, destroyer of the world. We're going to explain what that means. Torah Besula Tzalyanas. You have an unmarried woman who's a big davener. She davens all day long. Almana Shevavis. A widow who's very friendly with her neighbors. V'katan Shleikol Chadasha. And this, the Gemara is going to explain, that it means that a person who took years off his life, Hareilu Mavali Olam, destroyers of the world. Every line over here is stuff that we have to remember. We don't always get these kind of Gemaras. Beautiful, beautiful musagim in life over here. Ask the Gemara Eini. How could that be? We learned how to fear Hashem from unmarried women. And how to get extra sechar we learned from the widow. The Gemara is going to tell us a story. Who's this unmarried woman that we found how to be a Yerushalayim? The Nofla Apa. He once heard an unmarried woman falling on her face. Tachnon B'Ka'amra Rebbeinu Shalayla. He heard the whole conversation. Barasa Gan Eden u'Barasa Gehenim. You created Gan Eden and Gehenim. Barasa Tzadikim Barasa Rishayim. And you also made different types of people, Tzadikim and non-Tzadikim. Yiratzim U'Fanecha. What's her big tefillah? Not Hashem, find me a shidduch, Hashem this, Hashem that. Hashem, make sure that I don't cause other people to lose their Gan Eden and send them to Gehenna. Fine. Rabbi was very impressed with this psula. That's what she down for. You know, she had Yerushalayim. Other people shouldn't be nichshal through me. Kibul Sachar Ma'almana. There's a story. I didn't verify the story. I heard the story once that there was a woman who felt that she was too attractive, and she davened that she shouldn't be attractive. She shouldn't be machshel other people. And sure enough, she became sick, a whole maisa. And the end of the story? Who's her son? The Chassam Sofer. So if you know where the story comes from, I'd like to hear. I heard this maisa. Shalai kashlu be bnei adam. A sincere tefillah that people shouldn't be nishal through me. So what happened? How do we learn from the widow to receive more reward for mitzvah? There was a widow who had a very nice shul right where she lived. Yet she chose not to daven there. She would come to the Beis Medrash, not to the shul, to the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yochanan. Amar lo biti. Why are you coming here every day? Amar le Rebbe v'lo yischar psiyos yeshli. End the story. Checkmate. There's a concept called schar psiyos. And here there's another yisod. We could learn it and forget about this line and move on, or we could internalize it. She had two options. I'm assuming that the options were equal. It doesn't say here that the shul in her neighborhood, they used to talk a lot and she didn't get the proper whatever she needed from daven. It doesn't say that. It says her shul was perfect. Just the shul by Rabbi Yochanan, the Beis Medrash Rabbi Yochanan, was further away. And she wanted to work harder to get to that shul. The harder you work, the more reward you get. Very simple. That's why people, they work very hard to get esrog, very hard to bake matzahs. I mean, I personally didn't see anybody talk about it. To me, I was a little bit, I didn't understand, like, okay, so is this because she's a woman, or does this apply also to a man? For the extra 25 minutes that she's going to another shul, a man could sit down and learn torah. He could sit down quietly and learn. I don't know. Me personally, I don't like spending hours and hours on matzahs, even though it's a huge thing. My father used to do it, and for me, I have to prepare shir. To me, it's more important to do it. So I don't know, at what point do you say that? Schar psiyas. Yeah, it's unbelievable to get more schar, but at what cost? What are you losing? If you're not losing anything, you could think and learning the whole time. Okay, I hear. I don't understand the gather exactly. That's my own personal problem. Nothing to do. Nobody has to worry about it. If you have a good answer, let me know. Upon you see this beautiful idea. Schar psiyas. Let's say you're learning. Let's say you don't learn anyways. I don't know what it is. But to walk the extra block to the next shul, you get that much more mitzvah. It's unbelievable. You could send a check, I don't know, wire a check to tzedakah, or you could walk to give it. You get more schar for walking. Okay? Just keep that in mind. It's not just the walking, it's any kind of mitzvah in the world. Kiko Amar. Oh, so we said these unmarried women are terrible. What do you mean terrible? Big tzidkaniyas, your shemayim, the almana. So what are we talking about? I'll tell you what we're talking about. Yechani bas ritivi. That's all the Gemara says. So Rashi says a very long story here. There was a woman who pretended that she was a big tzaddikus. She was an almana. She was a widow. So that fits into our sugya. There are almanas. Not all almanas, says the Gemara. Yes, the almanas that are unbelievable and they walk extra to get the shul. But there's an almana who would tell women who are giving birth, who would come there, and all of a sudden, they couldn't give birth. And she would go daven. She said, listen, let me daven for you real quickly. Daven, and all of a sudden the birth went easy. So people said, wow, it's unbelievable, tzaddikus. One day, says Rashi, she hired a guy to work in her house, and she had to go to this delivery. She's the big tzaddikus that helps women deliver. And the guy sees in a jar, he hears noise coming out of a jar, and it sounded like a baby trying to get out of the womb. So he opens the jar, and he realized that there was a spell in the jar, that she was a sorcerer, she's a machsheva, and she would put the spell in, and she'd create a situation where the woman couldn't give birth, and then she would remove the spell just by removing the spell, but she wasn't a tzaddikus davening, and she was fooling people. That type of person is a terrible person, mevali olam, destroyer of the world. Next. What's this youngster that is not old enough? Says somebody who kicks his rabbeim, he doesn't treat his rebbe with the proper respect. So here's the pasuk of respecting a person who doesn't respect his rabbeim then he loses years. If he loses years, then he's called a katan shalei kalu chadasha. Removed some of his years. This is referring to a student who didn't achieve the level of psak. He didn't get the yair, didn't get his smicha, whatever it is. And he pretends he knows the halacha and he tells people halacha. It's referring to a Zaina. She because of her many fell. But the Gemara dashes it differently. Many fell because of her. This is Tam Chacham who paskins halacha before he's ripe to do so. Atzumim kol arugea. Atzumim, says Rashi, is the lashon of atzimus einayim shesogrim lashon oitzim einov, closing your eyes. The tam chacham shegia lo yira bein amora. The opposite. If you know how to paskin and you don't paskin, oh, I just had a shiloh. Just a second, it occurred to me. Maybe I shouldn't ask it because I didn't think it through. But I'll just say, you know what? I was able to see Gol Adar 2, the father and the son. Okay, I'll tell you. Chaim Kanievsky and the Stipler, both will never paskin. I believe. I know for sure the Stipler will always say, "Go ask him. Go ask him." I don't know. How did he take care of this Gemara? Person that knows how to paskin, especially in our generation. Okay, go ask Rabbi Eliyahu. They always say. Bad Kamel. So if a person is Tam Chacham, he came to that age and he doesn't say halacha, he's also terrible. We just turned to Daf Yomi Azacha of Eli ben Eli Simcha Sheina Masha. And Eli Simcha Sheina Masha bad Baruch. That's all from the Magachir. Remember the HBA Group and their families. Amen. Bad Kama. What age group should he not paskin? Adar Bar Mishnah until he's 40. Interesting Taisus here. Taisus says it means 40 years from when he started learning halacha. So for me, it would be about 90 years old. Because I didn't start yet. So, wow. Yeah, it's not 40. The age doesn't give you anything. It means you need 40 years of experience, as Taisus. We all know Rabba barely lived to be 40 years old. As Rashi says, he's the descendant of Eli. And we had that whole Gemara, Rabba taught this, he was like to that, but he only lived 40 years. How could he paskin halachas? Says Gemara B'Shavin. So Rashi explains B'Shavin. If he's equal to the greatest person in his community, so then, in terms of halacha and everything, so then he could paskin. He says different pshatim, or he comes to a place and there's nobody else there. Yeah, Darizal wasn't even 40 when he was nifter. So sometimes when you're the greatest, you give your psak, you do your thing. Umak is Prussian. Torah Shiva Prussianate. Gemara says starts off the 7 types of these tzaddikim, these Prussian. Now, a true parush, person who abstains from Manasa Olam Hazeh, obviously helps us all. It's like having a superstar on your team. We're Team Klal Yisrael. Then we have a couple of big prushim on the side. It helps the whole team. But the Gemara is talking about fakers, the wrong prushim, not the real prushim. Shiva Prushim. We're going to explain all of them. We'll just read their names quickly. Parush Shichmi, the guy from Shechem. Parush Nikfi, Parush Kizai, Parush Meduchia, Parush Machavasi Vesena, Parush Ma'ava, Parush Meira. Oh, I think. Okay. So I want to put a video here. And I don't think I should do it. I could show it. Because, which phone is it on? This one. I don't think it's in the slides. Maybe I did put it in, I just forgot. Let's see. So explains Rashi, he's a Shechemnik. Shechem only did a bris milah in order to be with Dinah. So he's a faker, he's doing mitzvahs for the wrong reason. This guy also doing mitzvahs for kavod, for other reasons. He's a faker. He's not doing it l'shem shamayim. Harsh nikvi, zeh hamenakev israglo. So Yoshi had a little thing here. Show everybody if you want to see. It goes like this. You got to pay attention quickly. Here's the guy, mamish, a big tzaddik. Now, if you take a good look at him, so first of all, he has a nice beard. He has payas. His head is down, so you can't see where he's going. He's not gonna. You look closely. He has like the jeans sticking out from the bottom of his black suit pants. Okay, and then he goes on. His hat falls off. You can see if you look closely, he has his payas. It's just tied up there with a rubber band. His whole beard is a sham. Here he is. Okay. This whole kapata. Okay, this is what he really looks like. He's a scam. The kid's a scam. That's what the Gemara is talking about. He's not a chassid, not a garnished. Now, Parish Nikfi, a guy who's he abstains from oil mazen nikfi. What does that mean? He goes with his hat down. He doesn't see where he's going, and he bumps the stones and whatever on the ground, and he keeps on stubbing his toe in the stones because he walks as Rashi, just small steps like a big tzaddik. He's a fake. He's a phony. He walks like this, and he doesn't even lift his foot up, so he keeps on stubbing his toe. What was the famous Maisa? I'm missing something, I think. There was a Rebbe that told this guy that he shouldn't look anywhere, he should look down. And he was walking and he hit a pole. So he says, "Oi, I'm sorry." So then how does it go? The Rebbe said, "I told you that, but now every pole became a nekeva," something like that. Like you ruined it. Something like that. Okay, fine. I forgot the line. You know what I'm talking about? Simeon, what's the line? You know the mice. Not for today. Parish kizoi. What does that mean? Omer of Menachem Yitzchak zeh hamekis dam laksolim. Again, he keeps on bumping into the wall. His head keeps bumping on the wall, but it's such a tzaddik bumps into the wall. Parish meduchia. Oh, so this I wanted to show the Ilam, and I downloaded the whole thing. I switched it onto the thing, and I forgot to put it up here. So I'll show it to you, and then I'll send it to Yosef, and hopefully he'll put it in here. This is a meduchia, a mortar and pestle. I was here in Chicago. I took it 2 days ago in Shallots. I thought it was for you guys.
We're in Shallots in Chicago, and they have a mortar and pestle.
I was so excited. It's the first time in my life. You know what I'm talking about? What's the Rebbe doing in the mortar and pestle? It's Shallots.
It's a way to save money, I guess. You think, hold on. Here you go. That's it. Whoa. No one.
Special music in the background. Okay, it's very interesting. I'm not going to say if it tastes good or not, but it was a whole. I've never done it. I have the mortar and pestle in RBS. We got a few of them with the MDY logo and the whole thing. One always talks about it. So the kids he's bent over a little bit more than usual. You know, the guy that does the extra shuckle, the guy that's faker. Shaba Kimeduchi, he's bent over, his head is all the way down. Parosh, my chavasi vesena. What do I have to do? And I'll do it. Homal Yusi. That's a good thing. Elo de Omar machavasi tu vesena. What else? More fake. Says the Gemara, Parush Mahava, Parush Mira. So he only does mitzvahs because of the special reward he'll get. Or he doesn't do averis because of the fear. That's not good. That's not part of the list. It's not 7 prushim. That's a good thing. A person should do Torah mitzvahs even not l'shma, for the right reason. Because even if he does it for the wrong reason, ba l'shma. Now, first of all, so this is a famous Gemara. You should always do even shaloi l'shma, because eventually you'll do it l'shma. So, Reb Chaim Volozhin says in the Nefesh Chaim that l'shma means l'shma of Torah. Okay, whatever that means, it doesn't mean l'shma, because Baruch should learn for the sake of Torah. But he also says a very important thing. He says when a person learns Torah, even though it could be Leilu Shema, but let's say you do the daf, and you're doing it for 45 minutes. And maybe it's not Shaloi Lishma, for whatever it is. But there will be, within that 45 minutes, 1 minute of Lishma. That's it. That's all you need. That one point that was Lishma, you feel like you're doing it for the right reason, that 1 minute. Baruch Hashem. So we call. But then, of course, you have Rashi and Taisus here. The big Taisus, Leilu Nishmas Chaim Oren. It's the same Taisus, and every time we have the sugya, that what about the sugya that says it's better that you shouldn't be created than created, or if you learn Torah Shel Yishma, it's like Sama Mabes. So Taisus always says that the pshat is there are people that learn for one reason, likanter, to show other people up, to show that they're better. That is terrible. That's poison. We're talking about regular people like us. So maybe we don't have the 100% right intent, but within that intent, and we're working on ourselves to get to the right intent, we're doing good. That's a good thing. The thoughts that we have that are hidden, the migalya, and the thoughts that are out there for everybody to know, they're known. But at the end of the day, Rebbe Shalom knows all our thoughts. And if we're putting on this big talus, like we're a big tzaddik, we go out in the street, we have the right kapata, the velvet, the fur, whatever works in your community. You walk out like that, and you think you're the Hamburg, the frak, the 2 buttons, 1 button, no buttons. You're such a chashav guy, the buttons flew off, or whatever it is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows the truth, what's underneath there. So explains Rashi, Yanai, who was a Kohen Gadol at one point, and he started up with the Chachamim. He killed many of the Chachamim, as we know, and then he went off the derech a little bit. So his wife was very scared that after he passes away, they're going to take the kingdom away from her children. She says to her like this: Al tisyorim and aprushim. The prushim that hate me, you have nothing to fear. Those are the guys that I killed. Those are the people I killed. They're tzaddikim. They're not going to do anything to you. They might want revenge from me, but not from you. And not the ones that love me, that are not prushim, they love me anyway. So what do you have to be careful of? It's a word in Hebrew. It means a faker. It's avua. He's colored. He's a pretender. Those who act like the prushim, shemaseim k'maisa zimri umevakshim schar or sachar kepinchas. The famous line. There are people that sin, like Zimri, who went with a Goya, and they want the schar of Pinchas, who killed Zimri. Pinchas was Moicha, and he killed Zimri. So, Oisim Maisa Zimri umevakshim sachar ke Pinchas. A famous line. There are those who are Rishayim, and they deserve nothing, but they want the award of the big tzaddik. Says the Mishnah, how are we doing with time? How much? 40 something, I think it says over there. Yeah? You have any idea what we're doing with time? 40? Didn't hit 50 yet? Says the Mishnah. Reb Shimon Oimer, Heilige Mishnah sponsored L'Zeichen Nishmas of Menachem b'Moshe. Reb Shimon Oimer. And by the way, everything we want to learn here in this Mishnah are things that we already learned and we're familiar with. Reb Shimon Oimer, Ein Schus Toilo b'Mayim Hamorim. There's no schos. In other words, if a woman drinks water, she's over, she's mizana, she's going to die immediately. And just because she did a good deed, what did we say yesterday was the end of the Gemara, that she sent her kids to learn Torah and her husband? There's no such thing. That's not going to help her. Why? Because if you believe that, you ruined the whole procedure. First of all, those women are not going to be scared to drink the water because every woman says, you know what, I sent my kids to learn torah, I did a lot of mitzvahs, I'm not going to die right away. I have nothing to worry about. Let me drink it. That's A. B, what about the women that really are innocent? And they drink the water, people are going to say, you're not innocent. You're going to die in 3 years from now. You're not so innocent. So you ruined it on both sides, says Reb Shimon. But the reason they didn't die is because there's a schus. Rabbi Omer has schus toilet b'mayim ha'ma'arim. It's not true. Ve'eno yuledes, ve'eno mishabachas. One of the Bav Shabachim asked me this question. And here's the answer. As we learned. That what? At the end of the day, she's not going to die right now. You're right. She has a schus. But you could tell the effects immediately. First of all, she can't give birth. She's going to start withering at that moment. Everything, her health starts deteriorating until she dies. And then she'll die exactly like she was supposed to die all the way in the beginning. Let me just show you what it looks like in case you forgot. She comes to the Beis Hamikdash. Here she is, already at the shiny corner. That will happen 3 years later. Nidmis, what if she became Nidmis Mechasa Acheloi Kocha B'Kli? If her mincha became tummy. So again, a person brings flour for the mincha, she brings flour, and when she says that this flour becomes a mincha, it has Gedushas Damen. It has monetary Gedusha in it, but it's not completely Kaddish. Until she puts it into a klisharis. But in a klisharis, then it becomes inherently kaddish, like a carbon. If the mincha became tummy. Before, did I not show that on? I don't think I showed it on the thing. Okay, Yosef will have to do some editing. Should I show it? Hold on. We'll pause. I'll show it. 1 second. You guys are just going to have to see this again. So Yosef doesn't have to do it. There we go. You can laugh now. Okay. And now we're back. Pause. Okay. If he makes a boy Samisa, she'll die the same terrible tragic death after 3 years. If the mincha became tummy from the time that she brought the Beis Hamikdash, it's only Kaddish Kedushas Damen. Actually, Kitchubakli, before she put it into the Klisharis, that creates a whole new Kedusha. It takes it up to the next level of Kaddish Kedushas Haguf. Harei Gechala Menachais. Then it's like in every other mincha of the world that somebody brings a mincha and it's only Kaddish Kedushas Damen, but not Kaddish Kedushas Haguf. V'tipadet, you can redeem it. But if the mincha already had Kedushas Haguf because you put it into Klisharis, Harei Gechala Menachais. Then it's like any other mincha that went into a klisharis and becomes kaddish kedushas haguf. And what's the halacha? Tisarif. Where do you burn it? I'm just show you right over here again, right there in the circle area, by Trumas Deshen, by the Deshen. It's called Deshen. There's a side of the mizbeach, the right side of the mizbeach, by the right side of the reb. That's where they burn it. It's interesting over here. I just noticed it says v'tisarif. We learned the pifazer, a lashon of pizur. Over here it says mufurish. It should be burnt. Says the Mishnah. These are the ones that the mincha become that you burn. If a woman admits her guilt, so we said once a woman admits her guilt, there's no point of making her drink the water. She doesn't have to die. She admitted. When she admits, but now we have a problem. What about the mincha? So you burn it. Or Edim came and said that she's tummy. No need to drink the water. Boy Maris Any Shoy, so that's also we had the other day. She refuses to drink the water before they erased the Megillah. Because once they erased the Megillah, what do we say? The halacha is we open up her mouth and force her. What if the husband doesn't feel like seeing her drink the water? We need the husband's approval, and therefore she won't drink the water, and the mincha must be burnt. And if the husband had relations with her on the way, meaning after she's already a Sotah, he's not allowed to be with her, so he ruins it.
Why would there be a mincha?
Oh, it was a mistake. Some of these cases, we have to say that they made a mistake. You're right; it's in the wrong order. Especially if you hold like Rabbanan that the mincha is all the way at the end. So, and we're talking about before the Megillah was nimcha. Okay, mistake. And you know what? This, by the way, right over here is a new Mishnah. This long Mishnah is a few Mishnahs in the actual Mishnahs. Usually it's the opposite. Like Vilna would take a few Mishnahs, make it one, or not really. Sometimes they take a long Mishnah, make it two. Fine. Over here they took a bunch of Mishnahs, made it one. And Mamela, we're going to stop right over here where it is a new Mishnah in the Mishnayos. Rabboisai, have a wonderful day. Shkoyach.